Unveiling the Sinister Curse. The terrifying tale of the haunted white dress from Ukay-Ukay. Sarah stepped into the musty Ukay-Ukay, an old thrift shop lurking in the corner of a decaying strip mall in Oak Ridge. As she eyed the mismatched racks, a strange energy pulsed in the air. Something was off. The dust motes swirling under the flickering fluorescent light seemed almost alive, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Her heart raced when she stumbled upon it, a white dress, ethereal and haunting, the lace edges fraying like twisted memories. It was beautiful, but a chill crawled down her spine. Whatever history was buried in this fabric screamed for her attention, and she couldn't resist. Once home, twilight draped its eerie veil over the quiet cul-de-sac, stretching shadows like fingers across the walls. The laughter of her children, Ethan and Lily, had dimmed into fearful whispers, their eyes wide with terror. They curled under their blankets, evading the nightmare that had taken root in their dreams, whispers that turned into screams, figures darting just beyond their view. Sarah felt an icy grip on her heart, convinced that something was lurking at the edges of their world, waiting, watching. Her mind tried to wave away the dread. After all, it had been weeks of sleepless nights marred by anxiety and fatigue. Yet, every time she glanced out the window, specters seemed to flit just out of reach of the lampost's glow. The darkness bled into her home with an unwelcome familiarity. Who were these neighbors pretending to care? Their polite smiles felt like cracks in the surface of their reality, and she became increasingly convinced that something sinister lay beneath their facade. The next evening, despair clawed at her when she discovered an old newspaper clipping tucked within the dress's folds, recounting the disappearance of Emily Hayes, a young woman whose beauty and kindness vanished into the void decades ago. Rumors surrounded her disappearance like a dark cloud, and now, that dress, once elegant, was now tied to a malevolence that seemed to echo through time. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real horror was closer, right around the corner, wearing a friendly mask. When Sarah approached the police, they chuckled at her concern. "Just a dress, ma'am." But their dismissive smiles ignited her fury. Alone at night with nothing but the ominous silence, her paranoia grew. Figures danced in the shadows outside, their hungry gazes crawled under her skin, feeding off her fear. Every creak of the house resonated like a shudder of impending doom. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days blurred into nights, and Sarah delved deeper into the town's archives. Hidden were unsolved cases, threads weaving into a terrifying tapestry directly tied to the heart of Oak Ridge, her neighborhood. The whispers of a greater evil began to take form, circling her like vultures eyeing their prey. Who could be behind the friendly smiles? The hairs on her arms rose at the thought of what she had thought were her allies. Her community veiled the darkness, and she felt the very walls closing in, her home transforming from a sanctuary to a prison. As the chains of fear tightened around her heart, Sarah felt an urgent pull. Something was coming for her children, and she needed to discover the truth about the dress before it was too late. Just then, the air filled with a soft, haunting lullaby, echoing from nowhere, a ghostly tune that sent tremors down her spine. Something wanted her, craved her. The darkness was just beginning to unveil its true face. The lullaby curled around Sarah like a fog, clinging to her skin, permeating her mind. It was sweet yet sinister, a deceptive embrace that promised comfort but hinted at despair. She rushed towards the window, heart pounding in her chest, the glass cold beneath her fingers. Outside, shadows danced with uncanny grace, flickering in and out of the lamplight. They weren't just figments of her imagination. They had substance, darkness dripping from them like ink. "Ethan!" "Lily," she called, urgency spilling from her voice. The kids peered from under their blankets, eyes wide, their faces pale as the dress itself. The fear mirrored in their expressions gnawed at her resolve. They had seen something, too. Mom, Lily started, her voice trembling like a leaf. "There's a lady in the garden." Every instinct in Sarah screamed to protect her children. She turned to the looming shadows, as if they had whispered secrets too dangerous to hold. "What lady?" "The one in the white dress," Ethan whispered, his gaze fixed out the window, his small hands trembling. She looked sad. The faint strum of the lullaby grew louder, almost beckoning them. They didn't just see her. They felt her, a specter from the depths of despair, woven into the fabric of their lives. Sarah's heart sank. Could it be Emily Hayes? Was this haunting a call for help or a warning? Trying to stay calm, she held her children tight. "It's just a trick of the light. Let us stay together, okay?" But her voice lacked conviction. She could feel something malicious lurking just beyond the glass. Breathless, she bolted to grab her phone, fingers shaking as she dialed a local historian she'd hunted down through her research. A grainy voice answered, thick with uncertainty. "What do you want to know?" "About the dress. The woman who disappeared. Emily Hayes." There was a pause on the other end, an unsettling silence that stretched like an abyss ready to swallow her whole. "You shouldn't be poking around old stories, Mayim. Some things are better left forgotten. Tell me what happened to her." Sarah's desperation spilled through the phone, her children clinging to her, their whispers a chorus of dread. She was last seen wearing a white dress. It was rumored to be cursed. Anyone who wore it would be drawn into her nightmare. She didn't just disappear, you see. Something took her, and it might want you now too. The connection sputtered and crackled, the warning echoing ominously. The lullaby sharpened to a breathy wail. She could sense the presence moving closer, demanding her attention. The soft glow outside took on a chilling hue, illuminating an outline of a figure, translucent yet saturated with malice. "No!" Sarah screamed, instinct driving her to shield her children as the shadow drew near. The ghostly figure reached out, fingers like splintered branches stretching into their world. The room seemed to constrict, enveloping them in an impending darkness thicker than night. "Mom!" Ethan cried, terror lacing his voice. With a desperate burst of courage, Sarah yanked the dress from where it hung ominously on the wall. But the fabric felt alive, as if it resisted her pull, unwilling to let go of whatever dark connection bound it. The lullaby twisted into a wild cacophony, echoing through her mind. "Stop! Let us go!" she shouted, the grip of dread tightening around her throat, panic rising like bile. And just like that, the wailing ceased. A heavy silence fell, the kind that feels like a warning. But in that quiet, a new sound emerged, a soft, low voice that whispered directly into her consciousness. "Find me, Sarah, or lose everything." With a newfound resolve but equal terror, Sarah realized she had no choice now. She had to plunge deeper into the townsfolk's secrets, into the heart of Oak Ridge, to uncover the twisted fate intertwined with her family. But as the shadows shifted around her, one question wormed its way into her mind. What price would she have to pay to confront the truth? A sharp shiver crawled down her spine as she clutched the dress tighter. Blood-red eyes glimmered from the darkest corner of her home, and the haunting melody began again, whispering promises of lost souls. The air grew heavy, saturated with an unspeakable dread. As the haunting lullaby seeped into the walls, the temperature plummeted, and Sarah could see her breath forming misty clouds. She fought the urge to panic, her grip on the dress tightening to the point of pain. Somehow, it felt both like a weight and a lifeline. "Mom, please!" "What is happening?" Ethan's voice sliced through the tension, raw and terrified. Stay close. Don't wander away. She could barely form the words. The more she grasped for control, the more it felt like sand slipping through her fingers. She cast a desperate glance at the window, where shadows twisted like dark tendrils, creeping closer, closer. No, Lily cried, staring past her mother, eyes transfixed. The lady she is coming. As the shadows coalesced, Sarah's heart raced wildly, pounding in her ears. She dared to look outside. The figure in the white dress loomed there, immovable yet fluid, an unnatural blend of desperation and longing. The moonlight seemed to shimmer off her pale garment, giving it an ethereal quality that morphed into a more sinister glow. "Mom, make her go away." Ethan's plea clawed at her insides. The lump in Sarah's throat grew heavy. "Go inside." She shoved the dress onto the bed and stepped toward the window. "Leave us alone." The words erupted from her without thought, filled with fury and fear. The lady's face flickered into focus, and Sarah felt an overwhelming pull, a gravitational force drawing her toward that abandoned desperation. The eyes, dark and hollow, seemed to bore into her very soul, as if she had known pain and loss that transcended time. Yet something was amiss. The closer she looked, the more she realized the ethereal glow obscured something hideous. The skin appeared to be stretched, thin like parchment paper, revealing the underlying horrors. In that one heart-stopping moment, Sarah understood. The lady in white wasn't merely sorrowful. She was hungry. A sharp snap brought her back. The room plunged into chaos as the sound of the dress tearing echoed painfully in the silence. Sarah whipped around to see Lily clutching the fabric, her wide eyes filled with both wonder and fear. "Mom, I want to wear it." "No. No, you mustn't." Panic clawed at Sarah's throat as she rushed to snatch it away. But dread warred with maternal instinct. The dress floated above them, glimmers of movement beneath its layers revealing dark shapes swirling, beckoning, whispering promises of secrets, long-forgotten stories that no one had dared to uncover. But Sarah couldn't allow it. She couldn't let them take her daughter too. Her heart raced as she lunged forward, grabbing the fabric in one swift motion, but as she did, the shadows erupted around her like a black tide, spilling into every corner of the room, ensnaring her family. "Help!" Ethan screamed, his small voice echoing in the storm of darkness. The lullaby transformed into a deafening roar of anguish, clawing at Sarah's mind. And in the tumult, she felt it a connection, a shard of the past, yanking her consciousness towards the garden. It wanted her. "Look! There's a door!" Ethan shouted, terror etching his features. She turned, and indeed a door appeared at the far end of the room, surrounded by shadows that twisted into a gateway beckoning her. "Lily! Ethan! Follow me!" She grabbed their hands, her pulse pounding like a frantic heartbeat. The shadows writhed around them, almost alive with intent, as they ran for the door, pulling and pushing against the weight of time and despair. But with each step, an ominous voice whispered, "You can't escape, she needs you." The door loomed closer, yet every stride felt like running through molasses, that macabre lullaby thrumming in her ears, like a cruel reminder of what awaited. They were almost there. One last push. One final leap into the unknown. And just as they reached the threshold, the ground trembled beneath them. Sarah turned back for one last glance at the spectral woman. But the moment met her with blood-red eyes, wide and filled with unquenchable hunger. "Find me, Sarah, or lose everything." The door slammed shut behind them, sealing them in darkness. Sarah's heart dropped. She held her breath. What would they find on the other side? What truth awaited them in the depths of Oak Ridge's secrets? Suddenly, another resonant sound filled the void, a whisper so close, so sickeningly sweet, it made her stomach churn. "Welcome." The darkness folded around Sarah and her children as if they had stepped into a living abyss. A nauseating sweetness lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. Sarah fought to regain her breath, her heart hammering against her ribcage like it might burst free. "Ethan! Lily!" she whispered, her voice trembling. The shadows seemed to breathe, consuming the space around them, teasing her with an oppressive silence that swelled with anxious anticipation. The door behind them was now an impenetrable barrier, and the disorienting weight of uncertainty pressed down. "Where are we?" Ethan asked, his voice small and scared. She squeezed his hand tighter, desperately wishing she could shield him from whatever horror loomed here. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just stay close," she said, forced to sound stronger than she felt. Suddenly, she felt a chill snake through the air, rolling like a wave. It was a reminder of the woman outside, the one with that dreadful hunger in her eyes. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision, taunting her from the corners. As if waiting for a moment of weakness to strike. As they stood in the stillness, an undeniable sensation washed over Sarah, a presence, one that whispered through the darkness. "Look upon your fate," it seemed to murmur, layered beneath the breathy echoes of the lullaby. In an instant, the shadows surrounding them surged. A faint glow broke through the thickened ink, revealing the room they now stood in. Cobwebs draped from the ceiling like memories left to rot, and a mirror, dusty and cracked, hung askew on the wall. The air felt charged with a history that sent tremors down her spine. "Look, Mom, in the mirror," Lily exclaimed, pointing a small finger at the glass, her curiosity momentarily outweighing her fear. When Sarah turned her gaze, she gasped. The reflection was not just theirs, but something far more sinister. In the mirror, she saw the figure from outside, the lady in white, standing right behind them, eyes wide and ravenous. "Mom, she's here!" Ethan shrieked, hiding his face against her side. No one moved. The woman in the mirror smiled, a slow, deliberate movement that sent a wave of icy dread coursing through Sarah. It was the same smile her mother had worn when she spoke about her childhood, a soft deception layered with shadows, hiding something terrible beneath. "Come closer," the reflection beckoned softly, a voice resonating deep within the cracked glass, seductive and sinister. "Don't listen," Sarah shouted, pulling her children tight against her. But the pull was strong, more than the chill of the air around them. It was an echo of longing, a bond woven into the fabric of the dress that lay abandoned on the bed. Without warning, the mirror cracked further, spiderwebs of darkness creeping outwards until they enveloped the frame. The shadows swirled like a tempest, a heart-stopping cyclone ready to engulf them again. Panic ignited in Sarah's chest. "We need to find another way out," she cried, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Follow me." As they stumbled through the shadowed room, every corner seemed to pull them back, as if the darkness wanted to taunt them, to feed on their fear. The whispers rose to a deafening crescendo. Sarah felt the gnawing at her thoughts. "What will you sacrifice?" they hissed, each word like a dagger in her heart. Then came a spark, a flicker of hope. A faint light glinted from under a doorway at the far end of the room, casting shadows long and distorted across the floor. "There!" Sarah shouted, urging her children toward it. They surged forward, past the reflective horror, their legs pounding against the wooden floor, hearts racing in desperate rhythm. Each step felt more precarious, as if the ground could dissolve beneath them at any moment. But just as they reached the light, the whispers transformed into a chilling roar. "You can't escape the truth?" The shadows swelled before them, coalescing into a wall of darkness, the air thick with despair. Sprinting into the light, Sarah felt the heat of it ebbing away as the darkness reached out, desperate to reclaim her and her children. Would they slip through the doorway or be swallowed back? The answers danced tauntingly just out of reach. The light flickered, wavering, urging them to choose. But would they step into the unknown, unsettled by the shadows still calling their names? "Mom, it's getting darker," Ethan screamed. And in that frightening moment, a chilling realization settled in. The door might be their only way out, or perhaps their final descent into the depths of the darkness that wanted them back. "Don't look back," she shouted, pushing forward as the ground shook beneath them. But as they crossed into the light, a voice echoed behind, echoing through the engulfing chaos. "You think you can escape me? I am a part of you forever." Was that voice familiar, laced with haunting affection? Sarah's heart seized. What had they awakened? Stay tuned, dear reader. The chilling truths of Oak Ridge are but a whisper away. The moment they plunged through the doorway, Sarah gasped as the light exploded into a blinding brilliance that momentarily swallowed the shadows behind them. They stumbled into a new space, different from the oppressive gloom that had pursued them. The air felt almost electric, charged with an eerie energy. But that fleeting comfort turned to dread as she turned around. A chilling silence enveloped them again, thicker than before. The door they had escaped through was gone, replaced by a blank wall smeared with streaks of darkness that pulsed subtly as though alive. "Where are we now?" Lily's voice quaked, her small body trembling against Sarah's side. Ethan clutched her hand so tightly it hurt, his eyes darting around the room filled with unnameable dread. "This isn't real," Sarah whispered, hoping to convince herself as much as her children. As she scanned the dimly lit space, her gaze settled on an old wooden table pushed against the wall, its surface littered with objects that caught her eye: broken toys, crumpled photographs, and a small, ornate music box. Driven by a mix of curiosity and fear, she felt drawn to the music box. It sat innocuously, almost inviting, yet something sinister lurked beneath its surface. "Stay here," she commanded, regret echoing in her mind. What had happened to the way their worlds felt safe and predictable? Slowly, she approached the table, the wood creaking beneath her steps. Reaching out, she picked up the music box, noticing how its surface felt cold, as if it had absorbed the darkness surrounding them. "Mom, don't!" Ethan's urgent whisper pierced her thoughts. But it was too late. With trembling hands, she opened the box. A haunting melody unfurled, a lullaby so sweet yet filled with an unsettling harmony. The sound filled the space, wrapping around them like a spectral veil. She felt the heaviness in her heart shift, like a memory long buried clawing its way back to the surface. Images swirled in her mind: laughter and whispers of long-lost relatives, spectral figures peering at her from beyond the veil of her childhood. There was a woman, the same woman from the mirror, her face a blend of light and shadow, eyes gleaming with knowing. Suddenly, the music stuttered, the notes splitting apart, the melody chaotic and jarring. "Make it stop!" Lily cried, and Sarah's heart sank as the shadows began to swirl around them again, their forms disjointed and writhing. "You want TV alone, you'll join us forever." The whispers grew louder, woven through the music. The shadows seemed to pulse in time with the gruesome echoes, an undead choir eager for their next victim. Something surged within Sarah, a raw instinct to protect her children clawing its way to the forefront. With a forceful heave, she slammed the music box closed, cutting off the haunting serenade. The room fell silent, the oppressive stillness returning, but it was different this time, filled with anticipation, like the calm before a storm. "What did we just do?" Ethan asked, his voice almost a whisper. "I don't know," Sarah breathed, dread filling the pit of her stomach. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears as she felt the air grow colder, an invisible weight settling around them like a predator closing in for the kill. If in response, the shadows writhed at the edges of the room, newly agitated but held at bay, swirling like angry gusts of wind. They twisted towards the corners of the space, revealing a horrifying sight: a doorway shrouded in darkness, the outline shimmering ominously. "Mom, look!" Lily pointed toward the doorway, her voice squeaking with fear. The figure of the woman, shrouded in white, materialized in the darkened entrance, eyes glittering with an insatiable hunger. "You took something from me," she hissed, floating closer, the air heavy with malice. Run! Sarah shouted, adrenaline coursing through her. They surged towards the dark doorway, each step a battle against the fear and darkness closing in behind them. But as they neared the entrance, the shadows lashed out, grasping at their ankles like desperate hands. You can't escape. What is already inside you? The woman's voice echoed, distorting as it intertwined with anguished cries from within the darkness. Just as they reached the doorway, Sarah turned and faced the looming shadow. You can't have us, she screamed, trying to summon every ounce of courage within her. But the truth twisted in her gut. Would bravery be enough against the creeping horror that threatened to take them? Outside the doorway, light shimmered faintly, whispering promises of safety. Was it just another illusion? Or was it the salvation they desperately sought? The shadowy figure lingered, stretching her arms wide. You belong with me. As Sarah and her children tumbled through the doorway, she felt the sensation of falling, the abyss yawning before them, threatening to swallow them whole. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find freedom, or would they only barter for new horrors? The answer would soon unfold in a rush of terror and truth. Darkness enveloped them as they landed on a cold, hard surface. The familiar weight of dread settled back into Sarah's chest. She blinked rapidly, adjusting to the dim light that flickered overhead, casting distorted shadows along the walls. It felt unreal, as if they had been spit out from a nightmare only to land in another. Mom? Where are we now? Ethan's quiet voice trembled, his grip tightening around Lily's hand. I don't know, sweetie, Sarah murmured, scanning the room. It was small and windowless, left with a chill of stale air. The walls looked as if they once held warmth, but now they seemed eternally damp, trapping secrets of the dark. In front of them stood a long hallway. At its end, a glowing light flickered, taunting them. Shadows dripped down the sides like spilled ink. We should check it out, she suggested, despite every instinct screaming against it. Maybe we can find a way out. Lily whispered, a brave facade wavering on her small face. Moving slowly, they ventured down the hall. The light ahead flickered erratically, creating a pulse that thrummed in Sarah's chest, syncing with her racing heart. Each step echoed softly, but their fears screamed louder, worrying about what would happen if they turned back. Then, a chill swept over them. The air thickened, heavy with exhaustion, and Sarah felt it in her bones as the atmosphere shifted. A low growl slithered through the dark, vibrating the air around them. Did you hear that? Ethan's voice crackled with fear. Yes, Sarah managed to whisper, her throat dry. She glanced back, but the way they came was swallowed by shadow, and a shiver sliced through her. Keep moving, she urged, forcing her body to obey. As they approached the light, they saw it was not just a glow. It radiated from a door that shimmered like the surface of a lake under the moon. Eager for an escape, they rushed toward it, but the moment they reached for the handle, the ground beneath them trembled. Mom! Lily screamed, looking back as tendrils of darkness began creeping up from the hall's recesses. The shadows hissed, a multitude of whispers converging into a chorus of rage. You shouldn't have come here, the voices echoed, scratching at Sarah's mind, pulling at the scared fragments of her soul. A memory flickered her childhood, long paid in innocent fees. Sarah pulled her children close. We need to get inside, she cried, fear sharpening her voice as the darkness surged closer. They grasped the handle in unison, but it wouldn't budge, reinforced as if by magic. I can't, Ethan sobbed, struggling against the frost that seeped into him. Just try again. We can do this. But before they could even attempt a second push, the door flashed, splitting open violently with an angry hiss. At that moment, the walls wept, releasing a flood of shadows that screamed in anguish. No! Sarah shouted, knowing they were out of time. She couldn't let them take her children. She threw her weight against the door, using everything she had. The shadows clawed at her, relentless and hungry. "Leave her!" Ethan shouted, his voice threading through the chaos. The door finally opened wide enough for them to tumble inside, and they stumbled into a room filled with bizarre relics, a child's toy, a mirror cracked and streaked with something dark, and on the table, a faded photograph of the woman from the music box, surrounded by children who looked eerily similar to her own. Who is she?" Lily asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and fear. Before Sarah could answer, a mirror on the wall rippled. Reflected back to her was not just her pale face, but the shadows of the room twisted into specters, clawing at the cracks, waiting. "MOM!" Ethan screamed again as the mirror began to crack wider, revealing something rotten behind it, yet another darkness waiting to erupt. This fear felt different, raw and consuming. "Run!" Sarah screamed, pulling her children away as the shadows surged behind them, dark fingers reaching out, wanting to snatch them back. "Where?" Ethan cried, his eyes wild with panic. "Anywhere but here," Sarah responded, her mind racing as she scanned the room for an exit. But even as they backed away, another shadow broke free, the woman from the photograph, eyes aglow with malice, stepping through the mirror. "You can't escape. I'll take what's mine," she hissed, lunging forward, ready to claim them. "What do we do?" Lily gasped, eyes glistening with terror as the specter approached, encased in agony and wrath. Just before they could be claimed, Sarah noticed something glinting on the table next to the music box, the other music box, unassuming, but it hummed with a sweet eeriness. The call was undeniable. "Maybe if I play it," she whispered, an idea twisting in her mind. But would the music soothe the specters or unleash a worse horror? With no choice left, she lunged toward it, frantically trying to remember the notes as the shadows slithered closer. Would they find a way to break the curse, or would the melody seal their fate forever? Time felt as if it had come to a standstill, every breath drawing them nearer to a treacherous cliff. Would the music lead them to salvation or damnation? The moment her fingers brushed the surface of the music box, an electric pulse coursed through Sarah's body. The eerie hum vibrated deep in her bones, a haunting melody pulling her in. A quick glance revealed the specter now eyeing her with an intensity that sent chills racing down her spine. "Play it!" Ethan yelped, clutching Lily tightly. His small frame quivered, and Sarah could see sheer terror in his wide eyes. But the fear stirred a deep instinct to protect. Fighting off the dread enveloping her, Sarah opened the music box. The notes emerged, a ghastly lullaby that wrapped around them, echoing through the claustrophobic space. As the melody danced on the air, she watched the specter pause, confusion flickering in its malicious gaze. "What is happening?" Lily whispered, every shiver apparent. As the music played on, shadows along the walls wavered. It was as if a delicate thread stitched a connection between the past and present, a tether between life and the dark entities before them. Then a horrifying mixture of screeches and whispers exploded around them, the shadows contorting angrily. The dark fingers hesitated, retreating slightly from the glowing figure of the woman. "Keep going," Ethan urged, desperation lacing his voice as the air thickened. The specter's form flickered, then twisted, as if the music forced it to confront its own turmoil. But even as the allure of music momentarily subdued the darkness, Sarah could feel a heartbeat of anger rising in the shadows. They clawed at the air, growing agitated. Each note became a challenge, a desperate act that yelled of their presence. "I can't hold them off forever," Sarah cried. "It's like they're fighting back." And just as panic began to creep into her heart, the music began to shift. What had started as a sweet lullaby morphed into a chilling chant, a different kind of song, one that pulled its strings submerged deep in her memories. The faces of lost children, the echoes of laughter, her mother's abandoned dreams surged forward, twisting her reality. "Mom, it's changing." Lily shouted, peering over her shoulder. Sarah felt a presence, an unwelcome whisper invading her mind. "Let them go or suffer," the voice ricocheted, blending with the frantic remains of the melody. The shadows surged forward again, clawing toward her children. Sarah's heart slammed in her chest, each beat marked with dread. She realized the music was not just a means to fend off the darkness, it was also a portal. Each note was a key unlocking fragments of her past. "This is all connected," she gasped, piecing together the memories that rushed toward her, a fever dream of children never allowed to leave, threads binding them to the evil that beckoned. The pale figure of the woman, now on the edge of disappearing, seemed desperate to clinch that connection again. As the shadows lunged, Sarah gripped the music box tighter, the weight of her memories flooding her awareness. They were running out of time. The entity wanted to feed on their fear, on the past that haunted her. "Mom, what do? We can't stay here," Ethan screamed, panic surging around them. In a wild moment of recklessness, Sarah shouted back, "We face it. We need to reclaim our story." And in that heartbeat, she knew she had to let go of the chains that anchored her to the horrid history, to liberate the trapped souls instead of adding to their despair. "Let us finish this," she yelled, voicing the echoed plea of every forgotten child intertwined with her family's fate. With renewed determination, she pressed forward, drowning the incessant whispers in her mind. Each beat of the music became a surge, resonating with their truth. But then, the cracks in the mirror peeled wider, and from them, more figures began to emerge, children with hollow eyes, ethereal and blurred, surrounding them in a wretched dance. "Mom, no! We have to leave." Ethan's voice cracked, overshadowed by the chorus of despair. But before she could respond, the specter lunged, reaching for her, and darkness enveloped them once more, threatening to consume everything. What emerged into the depths of their haunting reality awaited them on the other side, and a new terror beckoned, echoing through the air, shifting the ground beneath their feet. Would they succumb, or could Sarah truly rewrite their fate? Each heartbeat resonated with impending doom, grasping for freedom amidst the chaos swirling around them. Would they break free, or would the shadows reclaim their lives forever? The darkness pressed in around Sarah, thick and suffocating. The music box clutched tightly in her hands thrummed like a living thing, pulses of dread mingling with an eerie melody that drew the shadows closer, emboldening their terrifying forms. "Mom, please, we have to go." Ethan's voice cracked, raw with fear. But the wretched figures encircled them, their hollow eyes glistening with desperation, mirroring a sadness that sunk deep into Sarah's heart. "Stay together," she shouted, even as her voice trembled. She could sense the swirling energy of the lost souls, intertwining with her own forgotten memories, each one more horrifying than the last. The shadows howled, thrumming with rage. Whispered threats blared through the air like a storm brewing. "Finish it, release us." As the words echoed, the specter halted, its once malice staggering into confusion. A glimmer sparked in its eyes, as if Sarah's music awakened something buried within. But each second felt like a lifetime, more shadows pushing forward, lips curling in silent screams of anguish. Desperation surged, and with it, a flicker of clarity. "Your pain, it can't keep you here," Sarah shouted, pouring emotion into her plea. "You don't need to cling to the past. You can be free." "Mom." Lily's voice broke through the chaos, full of urgency. "The music? It's changing again." Indeed, the melody warped again, a twisted harmony of rage and sorrow. The haunting lullaby shifted, transforming into a cacophony of cries and wails, sharp and jagged as glass. "Let the music guide them," Ethan yelled, folding his arms around Lily, grounding her. With a deep breath, Sarah forced her hands to steady. "Let it break the chains." She focused on the box, summoning courage, the family's bond shimmering like a beacon. The music responded, rising to a fever pitch that drowned the despair surrounding them. No! The shadows roared, thrashing and convulsing, clawing at the air as if they wanted to shatter the very fabric of reality. The specter's figure flickered violently in the storm of sound, caught between worlds, longing for release and trapped in grief. "Let go," she barely whispered. The music swirled and intensified, intertwining with threads of understanding, a desperate bid for closure wrapped in each note. "Finish what you started," the pale woman cried out, her spirit glowing. "Please let us free." Then, in a burst of incredible light, the energy in the room shifted. Figures of the lost children began to dance in a frantic rhythm, twirling in and out of shadows, their faces filled with longing and sorrow. "Oh God, it's happening!" Ethan gasped as the entities began to dissolve, forming a web of lost memories, each a piece of torment begging for solace. "Blow the dust away!" Lily shouted, pointing desperately at the music box. "Blow it away, Mom." Breathless, Sarah closed her eyes, focusing fiercely. "You are free. You are not bound anymore." With one final flourish of the melody, the music box erupted with an overwhelming crescendo, illuminating the room as a cyclone of light surged through the shadows. The air filled with soft laughter, a haunting memory of innocence lost crashing against her like waves against rocks. But just as hope surged through her veins, a low rumble echoed, and a deep cold crept into their bones. Something roared from the abyss. The shadows recoiled but didn't dissipate. They contorted into a single menacing figure, darker than night itself, stretching toward them with arms wide, fingers poised to snatch away every shred of light. "Not so fast," it growled, a voice like gravel mixed with shrieks of past despair. Sarah's heart dropped. What had they unleashed? The shadows weren't defeated. They were only enraged. "Run!" she gasped, desperation surging anew as the darkness lunged. One horrifying thought clawed at her. Could they face this relentless nightmare again? Would the shadows overtake the last of their hope, or could they find a way to turn the tide and escape this twisted fate? The twisted shadows whispered promises of dread, a chilling reminder that true terror lay just ahead, and salvation felt increasingly out of reach. Sarah's feet barely touched the ground as they sprinted through the darkened room, the shadows roaring in pursuit. The music box fell silent in her hands, but its final notes throbbed in her chest, an echo of lost hope that now felt like a distant memory. "Mom, hurry!" Ethan shouted, his breath hot as panic clung close behind them, an almost living thing. Lily's small hand gripped tightly to Sarah's, but even that warmth felt cold against the onslaught of dread swallowing them whole. The dark figure loomed larger, a grotesque silhouette against the flickering light. Its presence sucked the air from the room, leaving a chilling void that reeked of betrayal and despair. "Head for the door," Sarah shouted, urging her children forward. Ethan was a blur of adrenaline, but Lily hesitated, throwing a terrified glance back at the monstrous shade that loomed ever closer. "Why wouldn't he just let us go?" Lily whimpered, her voice trembling like autumn leaves in a storm. Sarah's heart twisted at her daughter's fear. "I don't know. But we can't stop now." They burst into the hallway, leg muscles burning as they ran, their footfalls echoing like gunfire in the silence. Every corner of the dim space hissed with whispers, tales of sorrow lurking just beyond sight. "Don't look back," Ethan yelled, pushing Lily ahead, panic boiling in his throat. The darkness draped heavily behind them, a shroud eager to consume everything it touched. A guttural roar erupted from the depths, shaking loose plaster from the walls. Sarah's pulse raced. They needed to find a way to escape that darkness, which seemed to claw at their heels, drawing frightening strength from their fear. "Mom, there!" Ethan pointed to an exit at the end of the hallway, barely visible through the mounting shadows. They barreled toward it, but the shadows morphed into a writhing mass, sealing the exit like an iron gate slamming shut. Sarah stopped cold, uncertainty freezing her in place. What now? She gasped, frantically scanning for any alternative, praying for a miracle. Keep running, Ethan urged, gripping her hand tightly. As they turned to flee deeper into the house, a whisper slithered through the air, chilling her blood. You've awakened us. You must pay the price. Every instinct screamed at Sarah to flee, but she felt the weight of their plight pressing down upon her. I'm not leaving anyone behind, she vowed, but her voice quavered with uncertainty. Suddenly, the walls began to tremble. A series of rumbles echoed like thunder, and shadowy arms reached out, trying to ensnare them in a web of despair. Time slipped away. Seconds turned into eternity. Mom, look, Lily cried, pointing towards an old mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. In desperation, they rushed towards it, hoping for an escape on the other side. But as they neared, the mirror pulsed with a familiar glow, reflecting their haunted faces, distorted and twisted. The darkness swirled, a maelstrom of anger and sorrow ripping at the edges of reality. What if we could see the truth? Sarah murmured, stunned by the insight. What if, in there, lies the way to fight back? Are you crazy? Ethan shouted, panic flashing in his eyes. We can't go in there. Either we confront it or let it consume us. Determination flooded her veins as she pulled her children close. Together, she proclaimed, and in that instant, they stepped forward, plunging into the reflective chaos. Screams erupted, reverberating around them as they fell, spiraling into a darkness filled with unspeakable torment. They landed in a realm where broken memories roamed, each desperate for release, their eyes wide with longing. The shadows loomed larger, but now they could feel the pulse of the music box deep within their souls. It resonated with the sorrow around them, each note a key to unraveling the dark truth. What are we supposed to do? Ethan shouted against the cacophony. The figure from before materialized amidst the turmoil, its face now eerily familiar, revealing the depths of its sorrow. You have awakened the truth, can you bear it? Sarah's heart raced. Could they truly confront the past? The shadows swirled, orbs of hope and despair colliding, as a revelation loomed just out of reach. Face it together, the haunting voice echoed, and as it did, the children grasped each other as hands tighter. With uncertainty hanging thick in the air around them, one question emerged. Were they ready to face the truth that could shatter their world even further? Or would the cost of their freedom prove to be too high? As Sarah stood trembling within the realm of fragmented memories, she could feel the heaviness of the past pressing against her, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. The figures of the lost souls swirled around her, their hollow eyes filled with pleading desperation as forgotten echoes of laughter turned into a mournful wail. Together, she shouted, her voice cutting through the panic that threatened to consume them. Her instincts urged her to protect her children, to shield them from the haunting truth that had united their fates with this nightmare. But she recognized that to break free, they needed to confront the damning reality, not shrink away from it. Mom, what do we do? Ethan's voice quaked, fear lining his brow, his small hand gripping Lily's. Focus on the music box. Somehow, we have to make it our truth, Sarah replied, determination shimmering like a fragile light amid the oppressive darkness. The shadows around them swirled, furious whispers clawing at the remnants of their fear. You've awakened us, the disembodied voices moaned, swirling toward them, seeking to devour their lingering hope. You must pay a price in that moment. Sarah clutched her children tighter, their hearts beating in synchrony with hers, a testament to their unity. Whatever it takes, she whispered, her lips slightly trembling as she locked eyes with Ethan and Lily, courage bubbling up within her. Together, we will break this curse. She reached deep into her heart, channeling every ounce of love, every cherished moment shared with her children. The music box clattered in her grasp, a lifeline amidst despair. Gathering her strength, she opened it again. A haunting melody poured forth, mingling with the heartbreak that surrounded them. As the notes cascaded into the air, the restless shadows began to sway, drawn to the music as if it possessed the very essence they craved. "Break the chains," Sarah urged, locking her eyes onto the flickering figures, the whispered memories begging to be freed. "You could be released." The spectral figures paused, caught in an emotional storm. Their hollow expressions transformed, flickering like candlelight, as if a part of them recognized the warmth of a life not yet extinguished. With every note of the melody, she felt reverberations rippling through the stillness. The darkness writhed, tense and quaking with uncertainty. "Is it enough?" Lily gasped, eyes flitting toward the encroaching shadows, the specters so close it seemed as if they could reach out and snatch them away. "It will be," Sarah declared, her heart pounding fiercely as desperation melded with hope. "We just need to believe it is." With that, she poured all her memories into the song, each giggle in the summer sun, each tear cried over scraped knees, the simple pleasure of family dinners, and the comfort of bedtime stories. Each moment wove into a tapestry of love that pulsed against the chilling air. The shadows shuddered, as if recoiling in pain, their forms beginning to dissolve under the weight of time unclaimed. "No! This can't be!" The specter of the woman howled, anger mingling with a deep, tremulous sorrow. But Sarah pressed on. "You're not bound to the darkness. Let the echoes of your past become part of your freedom," she shouted. The music grew louder, breaking apart the chilling silence as crackling energy surged through the eerie. The shadows retreated, swirling like smoke caught in a gust of wind. A blinding light broke through the black and ethereal glows, spilling warmth into the realm of despair. Sarah shielded her eyes, a sense of overwhelming release flooding her veins as the specters began to transform, drifting toward the light like petals in a spring breeze. "A glimpse of hope," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. And just like that, the darkness began to collapse. The fierce chorus of anguish turned into sighs of relief and echoes of laughter, tangible and sweet. Light engulfed everything, illuminating the twisted forms, and filling the void with gentle warmth. The spirits began to smile, their once hungry looks replaced with gratitude, and in that final, breathtaking moment, the shadows disintegrated, returned to the recesses of history. The world around Sarah shifted, and she clutched her children tighter against her chest, the music fading into a soft lullaby. The emptiness around them melted away, leaving behind a new reality, one where the past could no longer cling to them. As time returned to its rightful rhythm, the three of them stood together, bathed in soft light. They were free. Free from the haunting curse of the white dress. Sarah felt a profound shift deep within, like the weight of a mountain had been lifted, allowing fresh air to fill her lungs. "We did it," she breathed, looking down at her children, whose expressions shimmered with relief and wonder. "Mom? I was so scared." Ethan ducked into her side, his small body trembling slightly. "It's okay now, baby," she whispered, her heart swelling with a love unmarred by fear. They stepped forward into the new dawn, hand in hand. But she also knew a truth lingered in the shadows. A reminder echoed softly. They had set many spirits free, but every story told must find its end. As they turned to leave this place behind, Sarah cast one last glance back. She understood that while some chapters closed, the memories held great, unbreakable power, that love could overpower the darkest of nightmares. "Let us go home," she said softly, leading her children into the brightness. Their laughter surged, a cascade of joy that told the world they had emerged from the darkness. And with bold hearts, they took their first steps back into the warmth of life, stronger than ever. But even as they walked, an urgent whisper lingered in the air. "Remember us, find us." And with that, the story tightened its grip around them, an echo, a reminder the journey was never truly over. If you love this tale and need more chilling adventures, you must subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss our next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to help us feed the algorithm. It's more than just a click. It fuels our passion to bring you spine-tingling narratives. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this shocking ending. What do you think really happened in Oak Ridge? And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who must experience this thrilling conclusion. Your support means everything. Only true fans understand how vital these actions are. Don't wait even one more second to share. The next chilling chapter awaits.